Hello, and welcome to another power-packed episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited to introduce a very special guest today, Andrea McLean. She is the founder of ACM Coaching Group, LLC, and an author. You don't want to miss this episode. We'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back to Purpose Today. I'm very excited to introduce our very special guest, Andrea McLean, the founder of ACM Coaching Group, LLC, and author. Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining today, and welcome.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. April, for having me on. I am, just thrilled for the opportunity to have this conversation with you today.
You're very welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. And I know that you and I have, spoken in the past, and you've, shared some insight regarding yourself, but I want to ensure that our viewers are aware of information about you. So could you please just share a little bit about yourself with our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a board certified life, career, and executive coach and an author, as was mentioned. But I come to this practice with a 35 plus year career in corporate America with various global leadership roles in the food, financial services, and beauty industries.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. And I know you have a wealth of experience. And I know that, just in our talks that you had an interesting journey that really inspired you to pivot professionally after your extensive corporate career. So could you please share with our viewers just some information on your experiences and insight regarding why you decided to pivot professionally?
Yeah, absolutely. It's interesting that about maybe 10 years ago now, I was a new member of a board of directors for a customer care organization, and they had the whole team take the Strengths Finders exercise through Gallup. And as I was getting my readout from the coach who was facilitating that conversation, she said to me, based on your profile, you probably would make a good coach. But I parked it in my head. I was like, oh, okay, maybe one day. I didn't really think about it. But then about 8 years ago, I was expecting to get a promotion that I had moved across the country a few years prior. I was being groomed for this promotion that I expected, but leaders moved on, things changed, and it didn't materialize. And it was at that point that I had to do the soul searching and to reflect on what is it that I really wanted to do? What was next for me? And I knew that I didn't just want to sit around and wait to see what would happen in corporate. I thought maybe I need to take the reins of my career ladder and be more proactive about it. And I recall the conversation that I'd had with that woman about becoming a coach. And after I really thought about it, I said, I've been coaching my whole life. I've had employees in different areas of the globe. I've been coaching my whole career. So maybe that is something that I should pivot towards. And in my 50s, I went back and did my master's in organizational leadership, and then did the first of my coaching certifications, and then went on to do 3 after that. But that's why I made the pivot. It's like I came to that crossroads, so to speak, of what was next, and had to really think about what was my passion and what did I really want to lean into.
That's awesome. And I know you said that you had to make the decision that you were going to take the reins of, what you were doing, next. And so I'm glad that you, did that assessment and you did that reflection. But prior to, having that experience, had you ever considered maybe coaching prior to that, or was this something new after that reflection?
Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of stop and you think back over your life, you realize how the dots were connecting, but you didn't see it at the time. So my second corporate career, when I worked in financial services, I was a director of a customer service group and I had about 100 employees, but there was this rotational assignment where one of the directors for a year had to go and lead this development program for aspiring leaders. And it was day in the life simulations, running development plan workshops. And I was nominated by my boss to do this for a year. And I really enjoyed it, helping others to kind of lean into their strengths and determine, did they want to become a leader or not? And if so, what was it going to take for them to get to that next level? But then after the year, I went back to my operational roles. I was successful. I, moved on to other industries after that. So I never thought about it again. But yes, for a little brief stint, I thought maybe I should go into something like HR, but never really did anything with it.
So, I want to just unpack a little bit more, because you said it, people have to take the reins. And then you talked about on that year rotational assignment, being able to help people and coach them through the process of getting from where they are to where they need to be. How important do you think it is for people to make the decision that they are going to take, the reins, that they are going to take ownership to get from where they are to where they would like to be?
It is so important. And growing up, through corporate, when I started in corporate America, I think I was spoiled because I got 4 promotions successively in a short time. And so I thought that was the way things worked. You did hard work, you put your nose to the grind, it would be recognized. But I had to realize that the higher up you go, it's not just about the work anymore. It's about how you lead, how you collaborate. Are you a strategic thinker? So there are other things that come into play. And so I think we might get lulled into thinking that somebody's going to recognize how much value I'm adding here, and therefore it's all going to work out. But we have to ultimately take the reins. And I became so passionate about that at my last company, I was one of the co-chairs for the Women's Leadership Network. And one of the workshops that I ran for women was about creating their personal bio, which was kind of like a call sheet to be able to tell somebody else, here's my skill set, here's what I'm interested in, here's the value that I bring. So that way they could help to elevate their careers and steer the ship for themselves, so to speak. So it's really important. I mean, I'm glad I realized it along the way in my career,
Right.
but I think many times we don't realize it for a long time, thinking that that's not the way it works.
So thank you for sharing that. And I know that we have to take the personal responsibility. We have to, be the person to ensure that what we want our lives to look like, that we actually, are the architect and that we're the developer and we're we're the construction project manager, right? So we have to make sure, that that what we want to see in our lives, that we build the lives that we want, and taking that responsibility is a key start in doing that. So, I want to also just, talk about your transition. I know you said you had that rotational assignment. You went back to kind of what you were doing, before, but at some point you made the decision to stop and reflect and assess. And so after you made that decision, did you face any, challenges or even internal conflicts when you decided that you were going to pivot and transition into coaching? And if so, what did you do to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, part of it was the internal, because I had to continually affirm to myself that it was going to be possible for me to be doing this master's part-time, mostly online. So a lot of late nights doing papers, and I was commuting from New York City to New Jersey, and I was sometimes online, answering the online posts because you had to post a certain number of responses. So I'd be doing that on my commute, coming home on my laptop. So I had to kind of reaffirm that if I did the work, I could get through it, and that if other people could do it, I could also do it, and it was not going to be impossible. So that was part of it, just continuing to tell myself, keep going, don't give up on this, even when some of my colleagues said to me, "Gosh, you must, do you have all your screws in your head, right?" In a sense, because you are you taking this on? Because I had a global role, and I would be on calls till 10 o'clock sometimes at night with Asia, and then I would go do homework. So I can understand. But on the flip side, I had this conviction that I wanted to get it done. And, I just leaned on my faith that somehow I would be able to get through this and there would be a way and a path forward. And actually, towards the end of me finishing the master's, I became the primary caregiver for my mother, who suddenly got diagnosed with an illness out of the blue. And,
Wow.
just juggling caregiving plus a master's plus a full-time job, I'm a wife, I'm a mom. It was a lot. And I finally had to listen to my husband and my brother, who said, you need to get some help in to relieve you because you can't do it all. So I think, by the grace of God, I made it through. But really, it was about continuing to affirm, myself that I could do this, that it was possible, and keeping that vision in clear focus of where I wanted to go and why I was doing that, the purpose behind doing it.
That's important, being.
Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now.
So I just said I think that's important, being able to have a clear vision and have our purpose in mind and working towards, the purpose in our lives and working towards our vision just to make sure that we can see it through. And I think that was excellent advice that your brother and your husband gave you, to have someone to come in and help. And so I think that's very important. And we talked a little bit earlier about the fact that you're a published author. So can you share some insight with our viewers just on your journey of, becoming an author and, information on your books that you've published?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that opportunity. And so, talking about taking care of my mother, so the first book that I wrote was Grace During a Pandemic, and it's more like a journal, as one of my colleagues said, because it's detailing the story from holding a 90th birthday party for her, where she was the last one on the dance floor at 70. I'm sorry, at 90, 90, at 90, last one on the dance floor. She's 90. My uncle was 70. And they're the two last ones on the dance floor having a great time. And then a year later, she's diagnosed with an illness and, she passes. So it was just, for me, I didn't realize how cathartic it was to write the book. But when I looked back on it, I realized it was part of my healing process as well, of going through this whole journey with her. And so that was the first book. And then after that, I'd had this story in my head about somebody trying to figure out what they wanted to do when they grew up. So it kind of falls in the coaching space. And so I wrote, Girl, What Do You See? And it was about a 13-year-old girl who was trying to figure out what she wants to be when she grows up. But then I realized that I had this story. It's a 13-year-old, but I think it's probably better framed for a tween. So I'm rewriting it, and it will come out again next year as more of a tween book. And then I think after that, I wrote Flap Your Way to Success. And FLAP is an acronym that I coined and actually trademarked it. It's face life's adversities and persevere. And that's your way to success, because life is not always going to be easy. There are always going to be challenges. But if you just face the reality, go through life with all its adversities and keep persevering, you will find success at the end of that. So that was that one. And then back to the coaching book for girls. I have Girls Can Soar. And this one is 12 life habits for girls. So these are the tweens to high school girls who are just trying to figure life out. So it's things like making the right friends, advocating for yourself, asking for help, standing up for what you believe in. So it's habits that will help them to mature and become the young women that they can become. And then I think after that, I wrote this one, Decide to Be Your Future Self, which is kind of in line. I think I got inspired from my journey to write this one. And I won the Story Trade Award this year in the motivational self-help category. And this is a coaching workbook where I introduce my method SOAR. So it's shifting your mindset, overcoming challenges, activating a plan, and then reflecting and refining, because your plan's never static, it's dynamic. So you have to keep adjusting so you can get to where you want to be in your future. And funny enough, along the way, there's 2 dogs in our family. There's our dog and then my son and daughter-in-law's dog. And they're Bernie and Chloe. So I started a children's book series, The Adventures of Bernie and Chloe. And this is the first one where Bernie meets Chloe for the first time. So it's a story around that. But then I have 6 in the series, and this is the last one that just came out where Bernie takes the plunge. He learns to swim, even though he was scared. So short story is that if you had asked me 3-4 years ago that if I would be a writer, I would have probably said, are you kidding? Because the truth is, when I was in high school, I didn't really like to write. I have a chemistry undergrad, so I was, scientific. Scientific writing was fine. It was factual, but creative stuff, not really. You're given a couple of sentences and asked to write a story around that. It was not my thing. But here I am. Sometimes we have hidden talents that come out under adversity, and then you fall into the purpose that you should be following. So I'm having fun writing. Never thought I would be a writer, but I really do enjoy it.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you enjoy it. And I noticed that you said earlier, in my condolences on your mom's passing, I noticed that you said for you that writing was a great way, for you to have as an outlet.
Yes.
And I think within all of us, there's creativity. I think some people are just not, tapping into the creativity that we have, but finding a way to just be able to, have the release and, be able to, in a healthy manner, right, process what we've experienced and our lives challenges, right? And so I know that you talked a lot about your books. So where can viewers find your books? I know that, there may be people who are wondering, where they can find them. So how would they go about finding your books if they'd like to do so?
Yeah, absolutely. So they're on Amazon, barnesandnoble.com, and then also on my website, andreacmclean.com. So either place you can get the book. If you get it from my website, I can sign it for you and send you a bookmark along with it. So, Amazon or Barnes and Noble, that's not possible.
Right. Fantastic. Thank you. And it's showing there for anyone who would like to have your personal, you're welcome, autographed copy. So we talked a little bit about purpose and passion earlier, and you mentioned those elements at different points. So for you, why do you believe that it's important for people to pursue purpose and passion?
I find that now that I'm doing something that feels purposeful and that I'm passionate about, there's just this sense of fulfillment and reward that it's hard to explain. And I remember I was at work one day and there was a young woman. She was trying to figure out what was next in her career. And I sat with her in a conference room. And as I was talking with her, I don't know how to describe it. It was almost like an out-of-body experience. I just sat there and I thought, this is what you need to be doing. So it's just this satisfaction of seeing someone progress, seeing them kind of thrive as a result of a coaching conversation or reading a book or just connecting with me. Like I believe that by connecting with me, I'm helping someone to improve their life. And, I'm hoping that I'm a positive influence for them. So it's hard to have that passion when you're not leaning into your purpose. And I think we all should find what that purpose is, because then it's not work. it's a joy to be doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you're meant to be doing.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think when we're doing what we're meant to be doing, it's more, it's not, laborious work,
Yeah,
right? It's
exactly.
more of like our life's work, right?
Hmm.
So I think that's great. So thank you for sharing that. And so, if there are viewers who are interested in the services that you offer through ACM Coaching Group
Hmm.
LLC, what steps would they need to take to learn more?
Yes, they can go to my website. You can go to the Andrea C. McLean website that was shared earlier, or the ACM Coaching Group .com website, and you'll see various coaching packages on there. You might want to start with a discovery call, which is free, 15 minutes to see if we're a good connection and if I'm able to help you to achieve what it is that you're desiring to achieve in your future. And that's really the best way to see what the packages are. But outside of that, I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, so you can find me.
That's fantastic. Thank you. And is there anything else about ACM Coaching Group that you haven't had an opportunity to share yet with our viewers?
It's really about, and primarily I'm focusing on women, and it's really about helping women to be their authentic, unique selves. Because I don't believe that we need to be cookie cutters of anyone else. I think we need to be brave enough to lean into what we're talented at doing, where our strengths lie. It's so normal for us to look at what we're not good at doing, and we're trying to fix the things we're not good at doing. But we need to leverage our strengths, because that's where we're going to find the true success. So that's what ACM Coaching Group is about. It's really about helping women to find that unique talent, potential that's within them, and helping them to also embrace diversity and also cultural identity. Because a lot of times, especially if you're an immigrant, you come to this country, you kind of dull down who you are at the core, but it's about still being who you are, but being able to connect with others and being authentic to your values. So that's also one of the things is, having that integration, but maintaining that cultural identity as well.
That's awesome. Thank you. And is there anything else about yourself that we didn't have an opportunity to unpack during our show that you would like to share about
Yeah,
yourself with viewers?
I just, I'm, again, passionate about helping women become their best selves. It's not that I don't coach men. I coach men as well, but I have a particular interest in women because I know many times we're self-doubting, we're self-critical, we don't believe we have what it takes. And I want to help change that paradigm and help women to thrive and be as successful as they can in their own unique way, not, to copy somebody else or be like somebody else. But what is it that you have uniquely that you can bring to the table and be successful at doing?
And that's important. I think, one of the things that, I love to stress is about people showing up as their authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's, something that we're all born to do,
Mm-hmm.
and no one else does it the way that we do it. So,
Exactly.
you could have a coaching organization, I could have a coaching organization, but it's all done differently because
Yeah.
of the uniqueness that we, have. And so I think that's very important that we're authentic. And so I really am glad that that's something that you're helping people all around the world do. And I guess I should ask that question too, in case our viewers are
Mhm.
wondering: is there a certain part of the country, or do you have clients all over the world? Can you share a little bit of insight about that?
Yeah, I will have a client anywhere that Zoom will allow. And again, coming out of the corporate space, I'm used to working in multiple different time zones. So if it's my evening, their morning, 9 o'clock at night, 9 a.m. their time, or depending if you're in Europe, there's a different time difference. But yes, I'm willing to work anywhere across the globe to help people become their best authentic selves and decide to be their future.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And so if viewers want to connect with you, what would they need to do so?
They could message me on Instagram at Andrea C. McLean, or on Facebook Messenger as well, or on LinkedIn, Andrea C. McLean, or they can send me an email through my website, Andrea C. McLean. So there are multiple ways that they can connect with me if they want to learn more, or to set up a discovery call.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a pleasure to, speak with you today. I want to, thank you again, for taking time for us to talk today. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Dr. April.
You're very welcome. And I just want to also just take time to, thank our viewers for tuning in. And I want to highlight again, just, your books in case they missed the list. So Grace During a Pandemic, Girl, What Do You See? Flap, Your Way to Success. And can you give us that acronym again?
Face life's adversities and persevere.
Fantastic. Thank you. Girls Can Soar, and Decide to Be Your Future Self. And then the children's book series, The Adventures of Bernie and Chloe.
Yeah. Bernie with a U.
I'm so sorry about that.
No. Most times it's an E, but it's my daughter named him with a U.
So for those of you who were watching, so Bernie with a U on The Adventures of Bernie and Chloe. So great. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Andrea. This has certainly, you're welcome, been a pleasure. And I'm just going to, as we're parting today, for anyone who's viewing who wants to reach out to you, leave your website there so that they have an opportunity to connect with you. I know you said that they can contact you from the website. So Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I'll see you shortly after this commercial break.
Okay.
So thank you.